Hello, thanks for joining this webinar today. I'm Kieran Bandal, I'm the Customer Success Manager for Zetadocs, and I'm joined by my colleague Martin Nekev, who is the Channel Development Manager. We're really excited to bring you this webinar all about integrating a seamless expense management solution and the tips and tricks you should know to make the process as efficient as possible. We'll also briefly cover a demo of our own solution, Zetadocs Expenses, and the steps to integrate it within your existing systems. By the end of this webinar, you'll understand the benefits of implementing an expense management solution and what differentiates a good solution from a great one. So let's have a look through today's agenda. First, we'll explore the key benefits of an automated expense management solution, along with some of the common challenges businesses face during the transition. We'll then share a practical checklist for ensuring a smooth and successful integration of expense management software into your existing systems. After that, we'll move on to a live demonstration of Zetadocs Expenses, including how implementation works in practice. And finally, we'll wrap up with a Q&A session to answer any questions you may have, so please do put the questions in the chat. Okay, so let's get started. So I just wanted to briefly introduce you to Zetadocs Expenses, as we'll be referencing it throughout the webinar, and then we'll give you a quick demo later on. Zetadocs Expenses is our expense management solution. It's used by SMBs across various industries to streamline their expense management processes. If you're still handling paper receipts and it's getting frustrating for the finance team and the employees waiting on reimbursement, this is the solution you need. Zetadocs Expenses enables expenses to be captured on the go simply by snapping a picture of the receipt. The software uses AI to extract all the relevant data in a matter of seconds, making the submission of expense reports a breeze. Finance teams benefit from visibility of real-time expenses within the business and other features that help control expense spends. They also don't have to rekey expense data, as all expenses are coded correctly for Business Central. It offers a whole host of other benefits, which we will get into later on in this webinar too. But for now, we just wanted to introduce a little bit about what we do. So without further ado, let's discuss what you need to know about expense management that works seamlessly with your existing systems. Expense management solutions help to streamline the expense submission and approval processes from both the employee and the finance team's point of view. The employee can submit expenses on the go easily in a mobile app rather than needing to store the receipts for submission once they're back from a trip. They can then relax knowing that their expense is submitted within just a few minutes and that the reimbursement process will be soon underway, which leads to higher employee morale and less frustration. For the finance team, this means more accurate data on expenses in real time, which leads to better financial visibility and decision making. Compliance is a concern for many finance teams when it comes to expenses. Expense management solutions help to enforce your policies, whether that's specific limits on spend or mileage caps. You can be alerted about non-compliant claims in real time, reducing the risk of finding those claims in audits later down the line. This ensures full, accurate audit trails. The reimbursement process can be sped up when using an expense management tool. Automating the process speeds up the time for submission to approval to payment. The finance team can enjoy a reduced workload during month-end close, and timely reimbursements are made as a result of a more efficient workflow. Expense management solutions support any kind of team well, but they are a great solution for hybrid teams where there are less employees physically in an office. Since everything is processed digitally, it speeds up the process of having to send over paper receipts and ensure that the data is captured accurately, since the risk of losing the relevant documents in storage or travel is reduced. So now you have a better idea of the benefits of a seamless solution. Martin, what are some of the main challenges when it comes to integrating an expense management solution?
Good question, Kieran. Implementing a new solution to replace an old workflow can be daunting. Often, businesses are put off from making the change because some of the challenges traditionally associated with the implementation. These can include most teams already use systems like Dynamics 365 Business Central, and poor or incomplete integration can lead to data errors, downtime, and frustration. It can be difficult for employees and managers to change from a legacy system to something new, especially if training for the new system is extensive or complex. Low adoption of a new expense management system can lead to incomplete expense reports or policy non-compliance slipping through the cracks. Translating complicated and often informal expense policies into automated rules can be a challenge. Poor configuration of policy leads to a risk of non-compliant reimbursements being made. A big consideration for every business when considering implementing a new solution is cost. Demonstrating a clear return on investment can be difficult to do, especially if your current processes are established but just aren't as efficient as they could be. This can lead to delayed buy-in from decision makers and slow down the project. So, Kieran, what can companies do to overcome some challenges related to implementing a new solution?
Thanks, Martin. So yes, the challenges for seamless integration are pretty clear, and they can put off a lot of people from updating their expense management processes. That being said, there is a solution for every one of those challenges that make integration easier than most people think. Here are a few ways to make integration smoother when implementing new expense management software. When choosing an expense management software, make sure the tool you pick has the ability to integrate with your existing system. Talk to your Dynamics partner about integration strategy, and where possible, opt for the tools that have a proof of existing case studies where customers have integrated the solution seamlessly with Business Central and other tools you use. Expense management tools with open APIs may also be a viable option, though this might extend the implementation time. When it comes to change management, planning is key. Your team needs to have a clear onboarding strategy supported by the expense management software provider. Solutions with minimal training necessary are preferred, but make sure to understand how your software provider plans to provide any training or answer any questions you may have when implementing it for your team. Internally, it's also good to decide upon a role-based onboarding that can help your team to see their responsibilities clearly. Whilst decision makers will want to see the expense management solution in action before purchasing it, it's a good idea to bring key users onto those demos too, so they can see it in use for themselves. To ensure compliance, make sure that your expense management solution supports easy setup of your policies in the system, and ask the service provider to demonstrate during your demo exactly how the software enforces these policies when submitters are using it. It's also a good idea to spend some time ironing out clear compliance rules internally before implementation if your current policies are informal. Partnering with a provider who offers reliable support during setup ensures a smoother launch, minimizes downtime, and helps you get up and running with confidence. Now we just want to spend a minute showing you how our expense management solution, Zetadocs Expenses, is an easy management solution to implement. Zetadocs Expenses is designed for rapid deployment, so your business doesn't have to wait to see the value. The solution is built for Business Central, so there is no need for complex IT setup since it integrates seamlessly with existing finance systems. Most companies we work with are up and running in a matter of days, not weeks. Our internal team will work with you and your Dynamics partner to guide your onboarding process so that you can set up with minimal disruption. Our seamless integration with Business Central makes implementation straightforward, but has long-term benefits too. For example, approved expenses are pushed straight into Business Central as purchase invoices or journals with all the necessary details like vendors, tax code, dimensions, and GL codes already filled in. This means there's no manual work for the submitter or the finance team and less room for human error too. Our solution is cloud-based and centrally managed, so there is no need to install additional software or maintain infrastructure. It's a 24/7 cloud-based solution that's always up to date, so it requires low investment from an IT team. It offers incredible time saving because of the integration with Business Central, allowing what once was a very manual process to be completely free of tedious tasks and free up the finance teams to focus on more important tasks. The interface is easy to use even for new users, so there is little training required, although we do offer help guides and tutorials to support you if necessary. Single sign-on also allows users to access the Zetadocs Expenses system using their existing Microsoft 365 credentials. This means users don't need to remember separate usernames and passwords specifically for Zetadocs. I'll now pass back over to Martin, who will now do the demo for Zetadocs Expenses.
So just before we get started, let me explain the personas we'll be using to show how Zetadocs Expenses makes the expense management process seamless. The process begins with David from the sales team. While he's on the road, he can quickly add expenses on the Zetadocs Expenses app. At the end of the month, he submits the final version to April in Finance. Once he's added all of his expenses for a trip, he submits an expense report. This report is automatically routed to his manager, Kevin, for approval. It's Kevin's job to ensure David's expenses have all the information they need before they are approved and sent to the finance team. April in the finance team then gives the expenses a final review, and if everything looks good, processes these in Business Central. And it's really that simple using Zetadocs Expenses. So let me show you now how all of this works seamlessly together. So here you can see the Zetadocs Expenses home screen. Everything I'll be showing you today will be on the web browser. However, the process is exactly the same on mobile devices. So whether Apple or Android, everything will look and feel exactly the same as what I'm showing you today. And we have a few options here on the left-hand side. I'm going to click New Receipt, and the system will prompt me to upload an image file. Again, if you're using your mobile device, you just take a live picture or use one from your camera roll. And what's happening now is the OCR technology is reading the receipt and pre-filling some of these fields for us. And I'll just work through and explain what they all mean. So the date will be the date of the expense. The description will put lunch at Pret. The vendor will be the place that you've incurred the expense, so Pret a Manger. And the payment method for this one will be cash. However, if it was a credit card expense, you just pick the relevant credit card from the list. I won't show you how the reconciliation process works today, but I will just explain it. However, we have plenty of YouTube clips that explain the process even further if you'd like to see those. So the way that we do the reconciliation process, there are two different ways. Either the submitter or the person in finance can upload a CSV statement from the card provider at the end of the month. And then all that you have to do is just go through manually and match the draft expenses like I'm creating here with those that have come through from the CSV file, and that's the reconciliation done. Alternatively, you can use bank feeds with a daily feed coming from your card provider. And when these transactions are pulled through from the card provider, they'll automatically match to any draft transactions like the one I'm creating here based on the information within the transaction itself. So two different ways of achieving the same thing. But for this example, we'll stick with the cash expense. The currency is pound sterling. However, if you do incur in any other currencies, you can just type it in or choose that from the list. As for the expense amount, you can see the OCR has picked up £21.30, and it's giving me a warning sign here. This is an example of a soft warning limit. So David will still be able to submit his expense. It will just carry this warning sign throughout the approvals process. You can also set hard limits. So instead of an orange warning sign, it would be a red warning sign. And in that case, the submitter can't submit the expense until they fall within the predefined range. So this is great for setting up various spending policies and things like that. Next, we have itemized expense. So this is for something such as a hotel stay, where perhaps you've got a few different expense types on the same receipt. So rather than having to separate those out on different claims, you can do those all within the same expense claim. However, this is just a lunch expense, so we don't need to do that. Then the notes section is just a free type area to give some justification as to why we've gone over the spending limit. Then further down, we'll find the expense type as lunch. So this is where we have the seamless integration with Business Central. We have the GL account imported from Business Central. So when at the end of the process, we export the data back to Business Central, you'll see that this will come across to the correct GL account for lunch. And the system actually remembers that the last time we were at this vendor, it was a lunch expense, and that's why lunch has been automatically selected for us. As for the VAT rate and the VAT amount, again, this has all been picked up automatically and filled in for us, so nothing to change here. And then finally, we can capture some of the dimensions that we've got within Business Central. So in this example, I've got the department as sales. The system will recognize that David is in the sales team, so that's automatically selected as his department. And then if you want to add any projects or jobs or other dimensions, you can choose those from the list, and then they'll come across at the end of the process. We have a two-way sync between Business Central and Zetadocs for dimensions. So if you're updating a dimension within Business Central, you don't need to do the same thing again within Zetadocs. It will just automatically update. And we've already uploaded our receipt image, so we can just go ahead and save that expense. Next, I'll show you how we manage a mileage expense. We also support per diem allowances. However, I won't spend any time on that today. But if we click into mileage, you'll see a similar view as to what we saw a moment ago. We have the date, description, we'll put trip to client. And then for the vehicle type, we'll use a personal car in this example. However, you can customize this. So if, for example, you do have a different vehicle type, maybe someone gets a different rate if they travel with an electric vehicle or if they travel with a passenger, you can set those up too as per your own business requirements. But for this example, we'll stick with personal car. Starting point will be our office in London, and we'll choose the destination as Bristol within the UK, and I'll mark that as a return journey. And you can see now that the mileage has been calculated automatically for us. If I toggle this green button, you'll see that the way this is done is using our integration with Google Maps. So just the same as if you put a postcode into your phone, it will give you the best route at that time, and that's how the mileage is calculated. However, you're not stuck to whatever Google tells you. You can also manually type in the mileage, or if you do want to use this feature, but perhaps I've taken a different route, I can adjust the route on the screen and the mileage will be updated as well. In this case, I've set up a warning sign based on that, but we'll still be able to submit the expense. Then as for the mileage rate and the expense amount, VAT and VAT amount, this is all grayed out because as a submitter, David doesn't have any control over these, and this is all set up by the finance team. Then just as we saw previously, we have a notes section that we can free type in. And then if we want to capture any other dimensions like we did a moment ago, we can. And if we want to add a receipt, we can also do that. I won't save this expense just to keep everything moving along nice and quickly. So we've got our draft expense. We're now ready to create a new expense report. So if I click new report and the new expense, the period will always be the month that you're in, but you can adjust this as necessary. And to add any draft expenses, you hit the plus button here, and all drafts will appear here, and then we can just click add to add them to the report. And then once we've added all our drafts, we can hit submit, which will take us forward to the next screen, and it will see the warning sign because we've gone over the spending limit. On this screen here is where we choose our approvers. So as I mentioned, Kevin is David's manager, so he's automatically selected as the first approver. However, if you want, you can give people the option to choose. And the same goes for the processor. Like I said, April and the finance team will be the processor this time. However, you can give people the option to choose. And if you need to add an extra approver just as a one-off, you can do that as well. But we're just going to click submit. And that's David's job done. So if I pop back to the home screen, I can now see one report awaiting approval. That will take us over to Kevin's profile. So now we're in Kevin's profile. And we can see that he's checking his inbox, and we can now see that an expense report from Zetadocs Expenses has come through regarding David's expense report. So if we press view approval, that will take us directly into the Zetadocs portal and directly into David's expense report. Here we can see a quick summary of what's been submitted, and there's also a history section that will update as we go through the approvals process. So if we take a quick look into that expense, you can see there's a side-by-side view with the receipt on the right-hand side and all of the information that's been submitted on the left. So it's very easy to spot any mistakes that may have come up. And now we have a few options as Kevin. So we can either approve or reject line by line or the report as a whole. So if we can imagine that we had 5 expenses, if 4 of them were okay, but there was an issue with the 5th, rather than having to reject the whole report, we can just reject that one bad expense. Alternatively, with the correct permissions, we can go in and edit these fields. So I always give the example that salespeople aren't always the best at knowing what's VAT reclaimable and what's not. So if it is something like that, you can just go in, make the change, give a comment as to why you've made the change, and then continue it along the approvals process. We know in this scenario, everything was captured correctly, so we can just cancel that. And we can also delegate this to someone else if needs be. But from Kevin's point of view, everything looks fine. So we're just going to hit approve, and it will just let us know about the warning signs. And that's Kevin's job done. That brings us finally over to April's profile. So now we're in April's profile. If we imagine it's the end of the month, she wants to get everyone paid on time. If we click refresh, we should now see David's expense report waiting in our tasks. So if we click into that again, we can see a bit more history now as it's gone through the approvals process and that it's been marked as approved. So if we take one final look at the expense, we've got the same side-by-side views we had a moment ago. And then we've got the same options to unapprove or approve line by line or the report as a whole. And then if necessary, we can go in and make the same edits that we could as Kevin. But as we're aware, everything is correct. So we can just go back and we're just going to hit approve on this one. So as I mentioned at the start of the demo, everything up to this point has happened outside of Business Central. Only once the final approver, so in this case, April, hits that final approval button, that's when Zetadocs will communicate with Business Central to export this data seamlessly and without any interaction needed from our side. So if I go into our reports, retrieve all of our reports, I can see the one that we've just created. And I can see that purchase invoice 107311 has now been created. So if I copy that and pop over to our Business Central environment, and then I go into our purchase invoices and I search for that purchase invoice number, I can see that the purchase invoice has been created with David set up as a vendor within Business Central. And then if I click into the purchase invoice, I'll see that all of the information that we captured within Zetadocs Expenses has now come across to Business Central without the need to rekey any of that information at all. So this is when we're talking about seamless integration. This is what we mean. There's been no human interaction at this point. It's all happened automatically. The receipts themselves we store within the Zetadocs Expenses portal, mainly because we don't want to eat up any of the database storage that you've got within Business Central. And then finally, we have some reporting capabilities as well. So either using Power BI or Microsoft Excel, you're able to get information from Zetadocs Expenses using an OData feed and then get lots of insight into your spending. And that's the end of the demo. So we'll head back over to the presentation now.
Thanks for the demo, Martin. So let's review how Zetadocs Expenses creates a seamless experience across the whole expense process for both employees and finance teams. First, AI seamlessly creates expenses using receipt data. Employees can simply snap a photo of a receipt and the system automatically extracts the key information. This reduces manual effort and the chance of human error. Submitting these expenses is just so simple. Use the mobile app. Expenses are submitted on the go, which is ideal for those busy employees or those working remotely. During this process, Zetadocs Expenses automatically flags any expenses that exceeds limits set by your finance team, helping you stay compliant with internal policies without needing to manually review every entry. Expenses are automatically coded correctly for Business Central, ensuring the right categories, tax codes, and dimensions are applied without any extra steps. This means there's no need for finance teams to rekey any data into Business Central. Everything flows straight through, saving time. Altogether, this adds up to a smoother, faster, and more accurate expense management process from receipt to reimbursement. I hope you enjoyed seeing how Zetadocs Expenses offers smart expense capture as well as seamless integration with Business Central. I want to emphasize that Zetadocs Expenses really is a trusted solution amongst our customers. This is shown by our 4.9 star rating on AppSource, which is based on multiple reviews. You can check these reviews on AppSource and also various case studies and testimonials on our website. Customers also benefit from our outstanding customer support teams based in the US and the UK. So before we wrap up, we would like to offer you an exclusive promo for attending today. If you subscribe to Zetadocs Expenses, you'll receive 50% off the cost of implementation. To take advantage of this offer, just quote the promo code ZE-webinar to our sales team when discussing your requirements with them. We'd encourage you to book a personalized demonstration beforehand, which you can either do on our website at zetadocs.com/expenses or by emailing sales@equisys.com. So we'll now move on to our Q&A. If you can leave your questions in the chat, then we'll make our way through those as quick as we can. So if you don't manage to get your questions in, we'll make sure to reach out to you guys in the next couple of days to answer your questions. So we'll just give everyone a minute to submit their questions. So one question's come through in the chat, and someone has asked, how do we handle corporate cards?
So we handle corporate cards by importing transactions automatically, matching them to employees, enforcing spend policies, and sending everything through approval before exporting to Business Central for easy reconciliation.
So the next question we've got is, can users submit expenses on behalf of other users, for example, personal assistants?
Yes, of course. So Zetadocs Expenses allows users to submit expenses on behalf of others. So it's ideal for personal assistants or team administrators. And with the right permissions, a delegate can create, edit, and submit expense reports for another user.
And so we've got another good question. Do all expense users require a BC license?
Yeah, that is a good question. So no, not all Zetadocs Expenses users need a Business Central license. Only users who access Business Central directly, so like finance teams handling approvals or exports, require a BC license. So any regular expense users can use Zetadocs without one.
Okay, so I think we've got time for one last question. So how does your pricing model work?
So Zetadocs Expenses is priced per user per month with cost based on user roles and features. We don't charge per expense report. Zetadocs Expenses uses a pricing model based on the average number of active users per month. So you're only billed for users who actually use the system, making it a fair and scalable approach without extra costs for submitting more reports. So for exact pricing, just get in touch with us anytime after this webinar.
So we'd just like to thank you guys for attending this webinar. We hope that this has helped you show you how easy it is to implement a new expense management software. If you have any more questions or would like a personalized demo for your team, then please get in touch with us at sales@equisys.com. So at the end of this webinar, there'll be a short survey with a couple of questions about how you found this webinar. It should only take about a minute to complete, and if you do have the time, we'd really appreciate it. It just helps us to understand how we can improve and what content you would like to see more of in the future. So once again, thank you very much for attending today and have a great day.